hour of the second night of WrestleMania will air on ESPN proper. So for the first time, WrestleMania, or at least a piece of it, is going to actually air on ESPN. Of course, the shows will be simulcasting on ESPN Unlimited in the United States and on Netflix internationally. ESPN Unlimited, by the way, became available for Xfinity users this week. And supposedly, later this fall, it will become available for YouTube TV subscribers. So in the meantime, they expect you to shell out $30 for each of these shows. Until then, if you are a YouTube TV subscriber. Imagine shelling that out for that show last night. Yeah, I don't think so. But again, there's a reason why I talk about ExpressVPN every single week. Yeah, these shows do air on Netflix internationally, I'm just saying. NXT Stand and Deliver is going to look a little bit different this year because it will not be a part of WrestleMania weekend the way that it's always been. Instead, it will be held in the St. Louis area on Saturday, April 4th, a whole 2 weeks before WrestleMania, at the Factory in Chesterfield, Missouri, which, if you remember, is the same venue where Randy Orton wrestled Javon Evans a couple of years back on that one episode where Orton appeared. For PW Insider, WWE moved NXT from Las Vegas and off WrestleMania weekend as the timing of holding the show on the West Coast the last few times that Mania has been in Los Angeles and Las Vegas worked against the company's overall schedule. PW Insider has been told by sources the show had been initially planned for Vegas, feeling that by moving the show up, standing would have a stronger chance of spinning. The WWE events taking place, plus the schedule change would also free up WWE production, having to produce 3 shows in a 24-hour time period. That makes SmackDown the Hall of Fame and NXT training for events broadcast from Las Vegas this year. We were also cautioned that the Stand and Deliver move from Mania Week should not be considered a permanent decision. We are told that year by year, the company would evaluate, make the call as to the placement of the show. You know, it was always crazy to me that they would even do the show on the same day as WrestleMania. That's without me even taking into account the strain on their production team, which is a whole other ball of wax there. It's insane. And it does get lost in the noise of everything else that's happening that weekend. Now, in this case, when you think about it, they're out on the West Coast, which means that they're starting the show super early in the day, which means it may be harder to draw because you're selling tickets to a wrestling show that starts at 10 o'clock in the morning. That's coming off SmackDown and the Hall of Fame back-to-back the night before, assuming that they are back-to-back the night before. And then those NXT talents, they probably have to report to the building at like 6 o'clock in the morning? Maybe earlier? Fuck that. Wrestling should never be held that early in the morning. It's one thing if it airs early in the morning because, they're in a different time zone. It's taking place at a normal time, though, locally, wherever it's being held. But to start locally that early in the morning, that should just never happen. Miles Bourne, by the way, he won the NXT North American title off of Ethan Page on Tuesday's show. That's after they already had taken the AAA Mixed Tag Team titles off of him when Chelsea Green got hurt. So with Eddie Hall, that means the main roster looks like a natural track. I think he would make a fine addition to that SmackDown roster. I maintain that faction with him and Matt Cardona and Chelsea Green and maybe one other person.
I spy an Avery relic.
Something to think about. Bodyslam.net, next Bodyslam Plus Patreon this week, reported that there is no tentative date for a WWE draft in 2026. Rosters could be reshuffled throughout the year, just like 2025, but as of right now, there is no draft currently scheduled. WWE did not hold the draft last year. ESPN but the idea did not go anywhere. And yes, that was a precedent to so that ESPN, which of course is in the draft business, they broadcast other sports drafts. They were interested in doing WWE and just last time the WWE was right after WrestleMania 2 years ago. And then later that year, we got this straight to the window. This open-ended thing that lasted for a few months. And they should They could have done a better job of explaining how it was going to work. I'm not convinced they knew how it was going to work. They wanted to close it when they first opened it up with the first one. But it was was done as a way to shake the roster a little bit without doing another draft. And I could not understand why they did not open the transfer portal back up last year when it was very clear as day, that they needed to shake up the roster. Especially the SmackDown roster. Now, they finally did call up a few faces from NXT almost all at the same time. Instead of staggering them, it's like they all came up around the same period of time. And they really had no choice with SmackDown going back to 3 hours again. They needed new faces. So we got Obafemi and Javon Evans, and Trick Williams and Jordan Grace, right, all being elevated to Raw and SmackDown. Hopefully we see faces like Ethan Page and Blake Monroe coming out of WrestleMania, maybe Sol Ruka. I am no fan of the way the WWE does its draft. I'm not a fan. I think the draft is stupid, and I, for one, am very happy that they have no plans to do another one. Because they just don't know. Now, they have this partnership with ESPN. The NFL draft is treated like a major event on ESPN. It's too more a proper draft WWE, and they changed it up enough where it makes sense to do one, then I'm open to it. What I'm talking about is just the way the WWE approaches it. The way WWE does the draft is lazy. And those draft shows are boring. They are boring television. 85% of the moves they announce are simply people on Raw being drafted to Raw, and people on SmackDown being drafted to SmackDown, with very few meaningful changes. Right? They might be the right moves, right? The ones that make the most sense, but it makes for boring television, unless you can really shake things up. They just never seem too keen on radically shaking up the roster. They just want to move a few chess pieces around. It's all cosmetic, which is why I always say, and I will say it again here, you do not need a proper draft. Just make better use of your general managers. You have 3 GMs. You have one on Raw, you have one on SmackDown, you have one on NXT. NXT should absolutely be involved in this. It would be silly for them not to be. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. But instead of getting 2 draft shows out of it, and that's it, right? You get 1 draft episode of Raw, you get 1 draft episode of SmackDown, and then whatever supplemental picks they post online. Open up the transfer window.
Just get rest, okay?
This is what I've always said. Open up the window twice a year. Once after WrestleMania, and then again later in the year when it's usually quiet. Like around September or October. And leave it open for a designated period. It could be a month, it could be 6 weeks, whatever it is. And we can get segments on the shows with the GMs interacting, creating conflict, working out trades or call-ups. You know, NXT allows Raw to pick up so-and-so for a player to be named later, right? I mean, that doesn't have to mean that someone moves down from the main roster, although it could. Maybe it's like an IOU, where, you know, NXT can call it on one of the GMs to provide them with a big name, you know, to wrestle on an NXT PLE, like Stand and Deliver, right? I mean, you can be as creative as you want to be with it. But where there are holes in your roster, or where there are injuries that wreak havoc on your roster, make use of your general managers. They don't
Mind if I hop on?
And when one window closes, the next one opens up later in the year, and you do it all over again. Like, I know there are people who long for the days of those early WWE drafts, but you gotta let it go. You gotta let it go. That was years ago, and WWE has not done a draft like
I'll
that
just hop off for now.
in ages. It only works when you have 2 boring GMs and 2 brands that really feel like they are in competition with one another. That's what made that work. We don't have that anymore. There is no brand loyalty. Look, the brand loyalty is the WWE. It's not to Raw, it's not to SmackDown. Not with the way people move so freely between the 2 shows. Without true brand exclusivity, it just does not work. This is the better way to approach it.
Trade sales and take at Gardner White Mattress with luxury mattresses starting as low as $19.99. Everyday comfort to luxury level rest. Gardner White's in-store sleep experts are here to find the perfect fit from the biggest selection of trusted brands. Plus flexible financing and free same-day delivery. And getting better sleep for less has never been easier. 800,000 people across Michigan fall asleep on a Gardner White mattress tonight. And now you can too.
So many things come with a lifetime guarantee. Cars, computers,
Why?
Now there's a Michigan Lottery game that offers a lifetime of cash.
Hi, one Millionaire for Life ticket, please.
It's Millionaire for Life. Drawings are 7 days a week. The top prize of $1 million a year for as long as you live.
Yeah.
And the second prize of $100,000 a year for life. Play Michigan Lottery says Millionaire for Life.
What I said about their show Monday night better. I think I said already on Monday night that they come from Wrestling Central Tuesday. It was the first one of the entire year. And honestly, it was one of the first episodes that I've seen in a very long time. It decided to make it to the very end. That's very nice, very interesting to be the big games. And AJ came out, they introduced the town to the stage, I guess it was where
We have supplies that will be useful for the class.
And he said the reason he didn't lay his lumps down in the ring in Saudi Arabia is because he was to win that. And he laid them down in the ring on top of his mess. And they had wrestlers come out of the very end on stage. They so first up, basically, we have on WWE television. Years after he retired, we finally get him in the mask. He was there, Frankie Kazarian was there, Jerry Flores was there, behind the scenes, he was there, Bobby Roode, it was very nice. And then they got to bring up his motorcycle. He not be able to fit business. I think that doesn't bring another attraction to WrestleMania cards. He was there 2000. Ever since his Steve. AJ Styles WWE class in 2026. In the WWE class in the WWE announced that is Stephanie McMahon is now I'm not convinced they will. But he's doing it. Of course, he's determined to be in. It's kind of wild that he and John Cena retired already. He's going to be Cena right. And John Cena will be everyone's. And I think it'll probably just come down to his availability. But Cena has always told that he changed a few times. I think if he's available, he definitely will. Now, Styles
Looks like it's
was
moving to a new area.
well aware that AEW was willing to make him a big offer if he chose to go in that direction. And the announcement that he will be inducted into the Hall of Fame doesn't sound like AJ's planning on going anywhere for the foreseeable future, but Justin Morrison undisputed reports that after speaking with people close to AJ, he was aware that AEW had made him a substantial offer. Time away from home if he decided to wrestle outside of WWE. Multiple sources have confirmed to the WWE that WWE and AJ Styles come to terms on a new deal that will keep him officially with the company. One of those we talked to is that he will be helping with development of talent. Styles has made it clear that he is done with performing in the ring. John Anderson and Gallo, big brothers, they were there on Monday nights. Anderson said that it was terrible when he stepped against the mat. I said, AJ, I did not know you were really going to retire. And he goes, I said, yeah. What do you mean? We haven't spoken. How am I supposed to know retire? And he said, dude, I have to. My neck is hurting too bad. Beat up. It's time. I want to help the next generation. And I go, well, I didn't really believe it. So I just kept talking on my podcast about how you're not going to retire. You're going to do here, you're going to do there, and now I got to keep on telling them. It's not as bad as to be WrestleMania he said he was coming back from the WrestleMania. That's that to me didn't happen. And he mentioned that previously. That this ring is open to injuries. Years back, it was a tough road. He was now like in a year or anything like that. That's very good. And obviously, the
Time to
older
call
you
up
are,
the offensive!
absolutely. Everybody doesn't really come back this week. That's what we were 30 years old. I was afraid was came back and it's out of the tour time. Back, I guess it's like, you know what, just get back and 2 months just can't work enough time for me. I come back and then 2 months later I'm retired. So we got all the effort. I'm saying these 2 years, very eventful. Again, entertainment style. WrestleMania, I'm sorry to say, Kelly, it's not lost its that's where I make my is away. So we'll stop there. AJ Styles said nothing wrong in that comment. No lies detected in anything that was said there. WrestleMania has lost its and it was bound to happen because when you have multiple PLAs throughout the entire year that are stadium centers in front of 30, 40, 50, 60,000 people, and you treat all of these shows like a WrestleMania, you treat SummerSlam like a WrestleMania now because like Mania, SummerSlam is 2 nights, and eventually I'm sure the Royal Rumble will become 2 nights, and maybe other shows will be 2 nights, but 2 night Money in the Bank, like none of this will be something. Unless ticket sales really were to get to the next show in the fall, I think it would have that 2 night shows. Stage. And what else makes WrestleMania WrestleMania? Right? WrestleMania. Like a cosplay WrestleMania. So for AJ, it's like, well, I mean, yeah, it'd be
We're
cool to
getting
go to
paid
WrestleMania
well for
and
that
retire
one.
in front of 50,000 people. But, you know, we could do that in Saudi Arabia and have 30 or 40,000 people. We could go to some other, have a European PLE somewhere and do 50,000, right? Clash at the Castle a few years ago, they had 60,000 people. And he's got a point. WrestleMania is not as special as it used to be. It has lost some. That further addressed the ongoing speculation about a possible jump to AEW for one last run. He was on the Talking Shop Live show on their YouTube channel, Gallows and Anderson. He popped up there on stream for a little bit, and this is what he had to say. He said, let me give you a little something to talk about here. So everybody wants to say, oh, WWE put me in the Hall of Fame so that I couldn't go to AEW. Guys, I am retired from wrestling. Like, that's all this is. I make my own choices. I make my own decisions.
Excellent
I
work.
was ready.
That's another quest complete.
He explained that he was on the verge of staying on the table for too long, and he wanted to beat the house, which he did by hanging up his boots. He says, I'm still going to be working with WWE. That's not going to change. I have these dreams of helping out young talent. If somebody is not ready, once they get there, it's my job to hopefully help them get to that point to where they can do it. They are confident when they step into a WWE ring. Being able to help with that is a blessing. And that actually sounds like a great role for someone like him to be in for as long as he's been doing this for, as well respected as he is, the kind of performer he was. And like even in some of these videos they posted, like these vlogs, behind the scenes stuff leading up to this, like it's all about him, and he's getting ready to go out there, but like they show him in the gorilla position, he's looking up at the monitor, watching somebody's match. And then, like, the cameraman's like, oh, you can't help it, right? You can't help yourself. He clearly is excited, to be able to help that next generation and kind of be that mentor and that guide. And I think that for WWE, it's a blessing to have somebody like AJ Styles who actually wants to be, in a position like that. All that being said, though, Gallows and Anderson are not convinced that AJ Styles will not eventually be back in the ring. They were on Busted Open Radio And this is what they said. This is what Anderson said. He said, I think he can sit it out for a couple of years. I think he's able to fix the itch by helping people. He loves teaching. He loves helping the next generation. He loves helping younger wrestlers. He knows people look up to him. He knows how good he is. I really believe that will satisfy the itch until he can't satisfy the itch anymore with it. Maybe he just needs a couple of years away. Maybe he just needs a year and a half away. I do think that it's going to be at least a year. I do think it's going to be at least a year and a half even, but the itch is always going to come back. He's too competitive, man. And he's just too good still. And I know that at some point, I believe he's going to have to get back.
Need anything?
Gallows agreed. He said, AJ beat the house, but I would bet this beautiful house that I'm sitting in right now that he will be back. And I just see him coming back to the ring one way or another. There's too much left in the tank, and the itch is real. He's got that itch. Maybe he should see a dermatologist for that. This week's episode is sponsored by Wix. You know, I'm not much of a coffee drinker. I feel like I'm in the minority on this, but you might be. It's probably nothing like the smell of fresh coffee.
All yours. Take care
Feeling
out
of
there.
converting your ideas into cold, hard cash. But if you use Wix Harmony, it's a feeling that you may just get used to. Wix Harmony makes it super easy to turn your ideas into reality. Whether you're looking to build a professional website or take your business to the next level, experience the new way to create websites. Wix Harmony is a hybrid website editor that offers just the right blend of AI and drag-and-drop tools, introducing you to the next generation of website creation. You can launch a pro-grade site by entering a single prompt, turning your words into a full-blown website. And it's not just your AI agent doing the work. You've got manual controls that allow you to switch freely between the two and help shape every detail of your site. Get built-in solutions for every type of business, e-com to services, and the rest easy, knowing that your Wix site is backed by 99.99% uptime and enterprise-grade security. No add-ons required. The AI features and agents offered by Wix Harmony are very cool. And more importantly, they're very useful. And they're built specifically for small businesses, including Aria, your personal AI agent that helps you create your website and take care of your business so that you don't burn yourself out. Trust me, it's very easy to do. You can generate images, product descriptions, blogs, automate your email marketing, SEO tasks, inventory management, and more. Enjoy easy domain registration with web hosting included. Powering over 280 million businesses around the world, Wix has been a pioneer in website tech for almost 20 years. It's the new way to create websites. Trust them with yours. See what they can do for you. Visit Wix.com/harmony. That's Wix.com/harmony. I mentioned Bronson Reed earlier, and his injury, unfortunately, he is going to be out for a while. The Vision is... Maybe Danhausen put a curse on the Vision, because this group is as cursed as any faction I've ever seen. And I'm sure there was a lot of cursing going on backstage after the injury happened. But Bronson Reed was wrestling El Grande Americano and Jey Uso on Monday night. And, you know, it wasn't as if he did something that was terribly dangerous, visibly like, oh man, that's clearly where the injury happened. It was just one of those fun things, and he dove onto the pile to break up a pin attempt as Gable was trying to pin Jey Uso. And he came up to his knees and he immediately grabbed his arm and looked at his right arm, his forearm. And it was clear that he thought something was wrong. And we didn't see him again for the rest of the match. They had to call an audible and have Jey Uso go over because Reed was supposed to win. And unfortunately, Mike Johnson, this was on Wednesday, Bronson Reed was sent right to Birmingham, Alabama after Raw, the location where the injury happened actually worked in his favor, as Birmingham is just a short drive from Georgia. There is no word yet on how long he will be out of action because he suffered a biceps tear, a distal biceps tear. And Reed did open up and address his fans on social media. He shared his gratitude and said, appreciate the kind words. I will be back better than ever, causing destruction like no one else can. And later on, he shared a photo of himself lying in a hospital bed, and it looked like he had just come out of surgery. He was hooked up to all these machines and tubes and shit. And he said, surgery done. Tomorrow is day one. The road back. And from an injury like that, that's probably an easy 5 or 6 months. or maybe 4 to 6, but clearly not going to be involved in WrestleMania, and it will be some time before we see Bronson Reed again. And it sucks for him. I really do. I feel bad for him because this is the second time now that he has, in the last few years, that he has suffered a very serious injury that has taken him out of WrestleMania right before WrestleMania. And he was obviously part of the top heel faction on Monday Night Raw, and he was in a prime spot. I'm sure they'll slot him right back in there when he's back, but who knows if the vision will even be a thing by the time he gets back, or what it's even going to look like. I don't know. The timing is obviously very shitty. And now the Vision is reduced to a tag team. Logan Paul and Austin Theory are what is left of the Vision now. As we wait to find out when Braun Breaker might be able to make his return from his hernia surgery. Are they going to just wait it out until he's ready to come back? Are they going to add new members and call in people from NXT to throw them in the Vision and just have an entire faction of brand new guys? I don't know, but the Vision of me just feels like a lost cause at this point. It might just be bad luck. It might be better to just blow the whole thing up and start over again. Brock Lesnar. He was on Raw Monday night. They promoted his first appearance since the Royal Rumble. He was going to be on Raw in Atlanta. Doing what, we don't know. But I thought it was a little suspect that they were bringing him back on the Go Home episode of Raw before the Elimination Chamber. Naturally, you would think, well, maybe he's going to factor into the Elimination Chamber in some way. Maybe he'll even sneak into the Elimination Chamber. But that would be asking too much. They'd probably have to pay him for an extra date if they wanted him to do that. So instead, he showed up in the ring with Paul Heyman. I guess they could always plug him into the Vision, but he's
Ready
never
to
on the
get to
show, so what's the point of even doing that?
Alrighty.
Paul Heyman did all the talking.
Perfection.
The reason that Brock Lesnar was there, if you wanted to get a hint of what he might be doing at WrestleMania, they are doing the Brock Lesnar Open Challenge. This is what they have come up with. Now, it's very clear that they are trying to stockpile Raw as much as possible, and Netflix is the priority here because all of the dates that they have announced for Roman Reigns and Brock Lesnar, and I think for Roman,
Look good.
I don't know, it was 5 or 6 dates, I think it's 5
Alrighty.
dates for Brock.
Perfection.
They're all Raw dates. I mean, I guess it doesn't preclude them from adding a SmackDown date here and there, but right now, these are all Raw dates for Roman Reigns and for Brock Lesnar. And we're not going to see Brock again until the
Look good.
March 16th episode of Raw, and Roman will be there as well. March 16th,
Alrighty.
they're going to be in San Antonio, Texas. That just so happens to be 316. Holy shit, Stone Cold Steve Austin is going to accept the Open Challenge. We're going to get Austin and Brock at WrestleMania. Yeah, no. But as Paul Heyman is cutting that promo on Monday night, and talking about anybody in the back doesn't have the guts to come out and step in the ring with the Beast, who do you think the fans began chanting for? It wasn't LA Knight. It was Obafemi. And I was just gobsmacked by the way they did this, because literally in the segment before this, Obafemi was there. They showed him live in the back, talking to Nick Aldis and Rusev. They're teasing a match soon with him and Rusev. They had Oba wrestling The Miz on SmackDown Friday night. He was there. They showed you that he was there. So they started chanting, Oba, Oba. Of course, Oba didn't come out. It was a bad look. I don't know why you would film it that way. But my hope is that sanity will prevail here, and if you're going to have a Brock Lesnar match at WrestleMania, Obafemi is the right choice. And so maybe they're going to wait on, I don't know if it'll be 316 in San Antonio, but Brock's going to be on the show late March in Madison Square Garden. Maybe they shoot the angle there, and Oba comes out there, because how are you going to drag this out until WrestleMania? And wait until WrestleMania, let's see, because some people think, well, maybe they'll wait until Mania. They'll just have Oba come out of Mania and accept the Open Challenge. And you can do that. I don't know why you would, because Obafemi against Brock Lesnar, if that is the match you're going to do, that's a fucking match you promote.
Look
Okay, you can
good.
throw that shit out there as a surprise. That's number
Alrighty.
one. Number two, Brock's going to be on the show 5 more times before we get to WrestleMania. He did nothing on Monday night. That was a complete waste of time. The only reason they had Brock Lesnar on Raw Monday night, 5 days before the Elimination Chamber, was so that they could throw his tour dates like he's some fucking returning rock band. Throw his tour dates up on screen to get people to start buying tickets to go to those shows. Whatever they have him doing on those shows better be a hell of a lot better than what they had him doing on Monday night. Because that segment was a complete waste of time. And a complete waste of a Brock Lesnar appearance. I don't see how you can wait until WrestleMania to announce who his opponent is going to be. I'm looking at that, I'm thinking Madison Square Garden. And that's still several weeks
Got
away.
something in
It's still
mind?
like 3 or 4 weeks away, but I think you could probably drag it out until then, and that would be a big place to have Oba come out. You get the big face-to-face. You want to get that shot. You want to get that shot of the
Ready
two of
to
them
get to
standing
work?
right eye to eye.
Oh,
Look at all the
perfection.
posters, the graphics and shit. You can't hold that until WrestleMania. You just
That'll
can't
be
do that.
even more helpful now.
Oba Femi is the right choice. Let's talk about AEW here because there was a massive story this week that absolutely will have an impact on AEW. In what way, we don't yet
Look
know.
good.
But who could have seen this coming?
Alrighty.
Who could have
Perfect.
seen this coming? A bombshell in the war for Warner Brothers Discovery, the media rights partner and minority owner in AEW, which looked like it was about to be acquired by Netflix. To the point where Netflix even
What are
put
we
out a
making
press
today?
announcement some time ago announcing the acquisition. And how many rejections
What
that
are we
we've
making
seen
today?
of Paramount Skydance offers. I lost count in how many times they were rejected. That all changed this week. When Paramount raised its offer to
something in
$31
mind?
per share for the entire company. And the WBD board of directors deemed it rather, a superior proposal.
Look good.
And that then gave Netflix, I want to say 4 business days, I believe it was, to submit
Ready to
a
get
new
to
bid.
work?
But instead,
Alrighty.
Netflix pulled a major swerve, and they just dropped out of the bidding altogether. And they walked away from a deal that seemed all but certain, pending regulatory approval, of course. It still had to be approved. But they didn't even put up a fight. They didn't even
Alrighty
try.
to
They
work.
just got up from the table, they said thank you very much, and they walked away. And in doing so, they now collect a cool $2.8 billion breakup fee for the deal falling through. In fact, Paramount has already paid the breakup fee. It's already been paid to Netflix, or maybe they paid it to WBD and then WBD paid it to
Anything to catch
Netflix,
your
however it works. But it's like, boy, was that quick.
Look good.
They had that money ready to go right out the door, didn't they? Think about that. Netflix just made almost $3 billion off the Ellison
Ready to
family
work.
for losing. If I was the conspiracy theorist type, I might suggest that that was their strategy all along.
Alrighty.
If it was, that's it to them. But Netflix stock was also up nearly 12% in trading on Friday. Wall Street appears to be very happy that they walked away from this mess. It was shocking to me, if only because Netflix walked away. I did not see coming. And apparently Paramount and Warner Brothers, they were equally as shocked that Netflix walked. But this deal is going to have ripple effects across the entire entertainment industry. Media, news, entertainment, all of it. The Ellison family, they badly want control of CNN.
Look good.
Had Netflix acquired Warner Brothers Discovery, they were only acquiring the movie
Look
studio.
good.
And HBO and HBO Max. They were not bidding for all of the other cable stations, including CNN.
I'm ready to
It's
work.
entirely possible that Paramount would acquire
Alrighty.
that later on anyway.
Perfection.
But that was not part of the Netflix deal. They have no interest in being in the linear TV business, probably because they see it as a dying business.
Look
The Ellison
good.
wants CNN, and now, barring any regulatory issues, they're going to get their hands on
Alrighty.
it.
Perfection.
And it is just amazing to me. They're spending all of this money in some part. I'm not saying it's the main reason they're spending over $100 billion, but they are spending this money in part to
Anything
get their
catch your
hands
eye?
on a news network that has
Ready
been
to get to
dying
work?
for years. Since
Alrighty.
2017, CNN has lost nearly half of its
Perfection.
audience. Up to 45% of its audience gone. They routinely rank dead last among the major news networks. They even dropped behind the Food Network at one point. They'll end up turning it into Fox News Lite, which I don't really understand. If people want to watch Fox News, they'll watch Fox News. What the fuck are they going to watch CNN for? But the belief is that they wanted CNN as soon as possible, likely before the midterm elections later this year. Even if the deal eventually closes, they're not going to have CNN in time for the midterms. And they won't have much time to overhaul things, even if they do. So I don't really see what difference that's going to make in the short term. In a joint statement, Netflix co-CEOs Ted Sarandos and Greg Peters said this on Thursday. The transaction that we negotiated would have created shareholder value with a clear path to regulatory approval. However, we've always been disciplined and at the price required to match Paramount Skydance's latest offer. The deal is no longer financially attractive, so we are declining to match the Paramount Skydance bid. Warner Brothers is a world-class organization, and we want to thank David Zaslav, Gunnar Wiedenfels, Bruce Campbell. I always laugh when I see that. Brad Singer, and the WBD board for running a fair and rigorous process. We believe that we would have been strong stewards of Warner Brothers' iconic brands, and that our deal would have strengthened the entertainment industry and preserved and created more production jobs in the U.S. But this transaction was always a nice-to-have at the right price, not a must-have at any price.
Many things come with a lifetime guarantee. Cars? Computers? Now there's a new Michigan lottery game that offers a lifetime of cash.
Hi, what Millionaire for Life ticket, please?
It's Millionaire for Life. Drawings are 7 days a week with a top prize of $1 million a year for as long as you live.
Guaranteed.
And there's a second prize of $100,000 a year for life. Play Michigan Lottery's new Millionaire for Life. One win.
Lasts a lifetime.
Know your limits, always the best bet.
If you're an HVAC technician and a call comes in, Grainger knows that you need a partner that helps you find the right product, fast and hassle-free. And you know that when the first problem of the day is a clanking blower motor, there's no need to break a sweat. With Grainger's easy-to-use website and product details, you're confident you'll soon have everything humming right along. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
This is all terrible for so many reasons. Not that the Netflix deal would have been great either. Again, I said before, I don't like how any of these companies just keep getting bigger and bigger and fatter. But Netflix did not have its own studio and theatrical releases like Warner Brothers does and like Paramount does. Which means, you're combining the two studios here. It means lots of redundancy in jobs. I mean, a lot of job losses coming out of this, especially when you consider the massive amount of debt that Paramount is carrying. Lots of unemployed people on a scale much greater than anything that would have been seen with the Netflix deal. And that's to say nothing, of course, on the effect it could have on the movie industry. I mean, this comes from the Hollywood Reporter. If anyone thought theater owners would lay down their arms and stop fighting if Netflix did not prevail in its bid to buy Warner Brothers, think again. Just as concerning, if not more so, is the danger of what happens if David Ellison succeeds in owning two Hollywood legacy studios and merges Paramount with Warner Brothers. That's why no one at Cinema United, the leading trade group for exhibitors, is hardly jumping for joy on Thursday when Netflix walked away from its mega deal. And while exhibitors did not necessarily trust Ted Sarandos when he pledged that Netflix would give Warner Brothers movies a 45-day exclusive run in theaters, as from day one at Netflix he's refused to abide by theatrical windows, they find it hard to fathom that Warner and Paramount will be able to release a combined 30 films a year. Further, they believe the merger would vest one studio with far too much power. Cinema United, formerly the National Association of Theater Owners, is sure to use the topic of consolidation as a calling card when trying to stop the nuptials during visits to Capitol Hill, the Department of Justice, and various state attorneys general. A combination of Paramount and Warner Brothers would consolidate as much as 40% of each year's domestic box office in the hands of a single dominant studio and could diminish the overall number of releases. In 2016, Disney and 20th Century Fox released 26 new titles in more than 2,000 domestic theaters each. Disney absorbed 20th Century Fox about 7 or 8 years ago. Last year, the combined total was 14. It went from 26 new titles to 14, a 46% decline. The impact of this drop on domestic box office is that 20th Century Fox, or whatever they're calling themselves now, I don't even think Fox is part of the name anymore, is estimated to have grossed $900 million less in 2025 than in 2016, a drop of 63%. So you can see why those in Hollywood would not be fond of this deal. Although there is an argument to be made that by allowing that Disney acquisition of 21st Century Fox.
Your weapon's
And it
dull.
makes it easier for a deal like this to go through because how can you let two bigger companies merge and then turn around and tell two smaller ones that they can't? I don't think any of this should be allowed, but it's hard not to argue that the precedent for it hasn't already been set. Paramount is spending $110 billion to acquire WBD, and according to leaked audio from a WBD town hall,
The terrain here looks like a natural track.
they've already signed the agreement with Paramount. $110 billion. And think about this: Paramount itself has a market value of around $15 billion. With nearly that much in debt that they have been carrying around, now they're spending $110 billion for all of this. And once everything is combined, the new company will be carrying over $90 billion in debt. It's insane. It's one credit card bill that I have each month, and I pay it off every single month. And if I let it linger for too long, I feel guilty. They're going to carry $90 billion in debt around the foreseeable future. These numbers don't even make any sense to me. But David Ellison's father is worth over $200 billion all by himself. Between that, and you have the Saudis are involved, the Qataris are involved, providing equity. They think they can make it all work. They've got money coming in from lots of different places. But again, here, I feel guilty when I bought that Macho King figure for $40, thinking, boy, I really need to be behind this. And I feel guilty about that. Paramount has promised $6 billion in what they call cost synergies, which is just a fancy way of saying spending cuts and mass layoffs. And for purposes of this podcast, the question is, what does this mean for all elite wrestling? Is this good or is this bad for the future of AEW? The simple answer is we don't know yet. We don't know. If Paramount is looking to cut billions of dollars in spending, that would be very bad when the time comes for AEW to renew its media rights next year. Or 2028, if they pick up. I think they have an option here, so it may not be next year. It could be 2028. Paramount spent nearly $8 billion over 7 years. Remember that announcement about the UFC rights? $8 billion almost over 7 years. That's the agreement that they made for UFC media rights. That works out to about $1 billion a year. I think a little more than $1 billion a year. AEW would be a bargain for them by comparison. So if they think that AEW is delivering value to them with the numbers that they bring in, not just in terms of television ratings, but HBO Max viewers, and pay-per-view purchases through HBO Max, because now you can buy the pay-per-views through HBO Max. If they feel that AEW is delivering,
Sure, a lot of
they may
monsters
be
there.
fine. The most recent deal that AEW signed was reportedly for somewhere around $185 million a year for 3 years, with an option for a fourth. If we go with 185 as the highest possible number here, let's say it is $185 million a year.
I'll
It
just
could be a
help
little
out
less than
whenever.
that. Over 3 years, that's over $550 million. As opposed to $1 billion a year for 7 years. It's a steal. That's their current deal. Tony Khan is going to be looking for a better deal the next time around. He's not going to want to be flat. He's going to want an increase. This deal would keep HBO Max together with the TV stations, whereas with Netflix, it all would have been separated because, again, Netflix did not want the TV stations. It also means that Paramount would acquire the minority ownership stake in AEW that Warner Brothers Discovery currently has, which, again, it's a minority stake. It's less than 10%. And Netflix was going to keep HBO Max as a separate streaming service. That's what they claim. We don't know if Paramount plans to do the same or if they would merge HBO Max into Paramount Plus as one. But it sounds like it may be the latter. Now, HBO Max has something like 125 million, I think it's in global subscribers. Paramount Plus has about 78 million. HBO is by far the stronger of the two services. By far. And there was a report from Bloomberg back in October
I think we can mine
that
this.
cited a single unnamed source. Okay, so keep that in mind. But this was a Bloomberg story. And the source at the time in October claimed that the Ellison's plan was to merge HBO Max into the existing Paramount Plus service. They want to make Paramount more compelling for their subscribers. So if that happens, HBO Max is gone. HBO Max is no more. What effect does that have on AEW? Right, it's not only simulcast its television shows on HBO Max, that's where I watch Dynamite every week. I watch it in the HBO Max app. So not only do they simulcast their shows on there, but they offer their pay-per-views through there as well. And HBO Max is only first launching, I think, later this month in the UK and in Ireland. Right? They're not going to be very happy if it gets merged into Paramount. Now also, Paramount has a business relationship with TKO through UFC. Right? They have no direct relationship with WWE. But TKO is the parent company of WWE. Could there be a conflict there? Could that work against AEW? It might. Again, it all comes down to the numbers. Like, if Paramount thinks that they can make decent money off AEW and they care enough to be in the pro wrestling business without having to pay through the nose for WWE content, then it might be worth it for them to keep wrestling under their umbrella. It would certainly be cheaper than any deal they might make with WWE would be. But do they care enough to even be in the pro wrestling business? Right? That's one question right there. Another question is, who will be the person or people overseeing TNT and TBS? Tony Khan has talked about having this great relationship with David Zaslav, great relationship with the heads of the networks. Is that going to be the case with Paramount? Are the people in charge even going to like wrestling? We don't know, but if they have ownership in the company, however small it may be, and let's say they do keep HBO Max and they can make money off the pay-per-view sales, and I think so long as they're putting up decent numbers, that works in their favor. You know, the reality is when this actually goes through and we get a better sense of what their plans are, who they put in charge of these things, we don't know. We don't know what we don't know. And Tony Khan should be thinking about, and I'm sure he is, thinking about plan B in case things do go a bad way. Cable-wise, I don't know where they would even land. I mean, the cable landscape has changed so much, and it's another reason why it sucks having a handful of big companies owning so many different properties. Streaming-wise, I still maintain that Amazon, I think, could be a good option for them. But for visibility, I think they need to maintain a presence on cable. I don't think streaming is enough. You know, WWE took a chance that with Raw and Netflix, you know, they would be fine because they got paid $5 billion for it. And they still have a presence on TV. They have SmackDown on USA. They have NXT on CW. It's not like they're completely divorced from television. It's also been on the air for 30 plus years. AEW doesn't have that same luxury. Right? No more so than TNA does, even though TNA's been around a lot longer than AEW has. They needed a cable clearance. Access television wasn't going to be enough, and they ended up getting on AMC. If they end up off TBS and TNT, AEW is going to have to find a home somewhere. Streaming is not going to be enough. But stay tuned, because there's always a chance that this deal gets derailed. There was more leaked audio from that WBD town hall that I mentioned on Friday morning, where David Zaslav said he expects it to take 6 to 12 months for the deal to close, and that the deal might not close. And if it doesn't, he said, quote, we get $7 billion and we get back to work. Yes, if the deal fails to win approval, WBD gets $7 billion for nothing. You talk about failing upward in life. If this goes through, this might well end up being a bigger disaster than the AOL Time Warner merger all those years ago. But that didn't work out too well for WCW. Wrestling Syndicate might be back at full strength shortly. The almighty Bobby Lashley, while appearing at the recent For the Love of Wrestling convention in the UK, clarified that he is healthy and will be going after gold in AEW, targeting the Trios titles, currently held by Hangman Page, Kevin Knight, and Speedball Mike Bailey. He said, all I want to do is win titles. So that's what I'm really focused on. When we get back, between Shelton and MVP, we want to do things collectively. We want to do things as a group. So I think we're going to go after the Trios guys. Let's see what we can do with those guys, because I think that's what we need, man. The crowd loves us over there. Shelton's an amazing person, an amazing wrestler. MVP is amazing at everything that he does, and same here. So it's like we just have a great group. We're all friends, so we all work for each other. So anytime one of us is down, the other one pulls us up. And I think right now they're pulling me up. They're yanking me back in. They said it's ready. We're ready to get back out there and win some titles. So I am healed. Everybody thought I was hurt. I'm not hurt. You can't hurt the Almighty. He says, everybody thought I was hurt. I'm not hurt. But in the same quote, he says, I'm healed. Make it make sense. Please make it make sense. We have not seen him since Full Gear in November. He was quite obviously hurt, and now he's healed, and that's great news. And for as strong as the main event scene is right now in AEW, getting back names like Lashley, I mean, I know there he said he wants to just come back and go after the trios titles, but he needs to have a singles run at some point. You know, you get names back like Lashley, Will Ospreay, Jay White, hopefully soon. That's only going to make that roster and that top of the card that much stronger. Now, Dynamite on Wednesday was not quite as strong as last week's show overall, in my opinion. I still enjoyed it. We basically got an Anarchy in the Arena match in the main event with the Young Bucks, Jack Perry, and the Rascals against FTR, Ricochet, and the Gates of Agony. Right down to them letting Tarzan Boy lose for half the match. Perry and Ricochet lose the match, which puts him in line, I'm sure, for another crack at Ricochet's national title, likely at Revolution. Stipulation has been decided on for the AEW World Title match at Revolution. A segment with MJF and Hangman Adam Page. Page had already said that if I don't win the championship, if I lose at Revolution, I'll never again challenge for the AEW World Title. And so he wanted Texas Death, and MJF said, I need a week to think about what the stipulation is going to be, come up with one of my own, and then we can work it out. So he showed up with a coin, and then do a coin flip. If Page won, then he would get his mission and beat Texas Death. If he lost, MJF would get his own stipulation, a one-way no disqualification match.
We got
Page would get disqualified if he even so much as
That's okay. We're all
didn't
here
happen.
now.
MJF, he can do whatever he
The
wants.
forest is so big,
So he
it's
flips
got
the coin, he
trees
says,
coming out of
I take heads. Right, he flips the coin before it comes up heads.
Triple
He
gangers.
gets his match, he goes to leave. And Hangman is like, let me see the coin. And MJF refuses, and then Jet Speed and Brodito, they came out to block his exit. Of course, it ended up being
Come on, let's go.
a rigged coin. Tony Khan then relays to Tony Schiavone in his ear that because MJF used a rigged coin, it would indeed be a Texas Death match at the pay-per-view, which we already knew. So,
These guys seem like
I'm not
they're
really sure. I mean, look, this illustrates that MJF is obviously, nervous, I guess, about losing his championship, but
So, what'd you think the
not
forest
exactly
was like?
a segment that we needed to have on the show, but it kind of fits the narrative about MJF being worried that maybe he can't beat Hangman, which really, to me, that's the real story here. That should be the real story of this match. They had 2 matches last year. Hangman won them both. MJF just can't beat this guy. He cannot beat this guy. He might actually lose his championship at Revolution. There you go. That's your story right there.
Not many things come with a lifetime guarantee. Cars? No. Computers?
Bye.
Not even Cuckoo Plus. Now there's a new Michigan lottery game that offers a lifetime of cash.
Hi, one millionaire for life ticket, please.
It's Millionaire for Life. Drawings are 7 days a week with a top prize of $1 million a year for as long as you live.
Guaranteed.
And there's a second prize of $100,000 a year for life. Play Michigan Lottery's new Millionaire for Life.
Come on.
It'll last for a lifetime.
No limits is always the best bet. Not many things come with a lifetime guarantee. Cars? No. Computers?
Bye.
Not even Cuckoo Plus. Now there's a new Michigan lottery game that offers a lifetime of cash.
Hi, one millionaire for life ticket, please.
It's Millionaire for Life. Drawings are 7 days a week.
Incredible. So much diversity.